Welcome to the AI Accelerator Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Zembruski, founder and CEO of AI Agility, where we help organizations build superhuman workforces. Today, I'm joined by Ben Dowd. Ben's a certified AI consultant and former senior banking executive who now serves as CEO of People Focus Enterprise AI. With over 20 years of leadership experience spanning North America, the Caribbean, Latin America, Ben has guided organizations through major transformations at institutions like Scotiabank and beyond. Today, he helps enterprise leaders move from AI curiosity to measurable execution through hands-on training, operational transformation, and fractional chief AI officer services. And there might be even more there. We're going to find out real soon. Ben, welcome to the show.
Matt, thanks so much. That sounds like a very long, you know more about me than I do. It's great. It's great to be here. Absolutely. And, in the world of AI now, it's very, very different from what I was doing for the rest of my career, but absolutely thrilled to be in it. No question.
That's fantastic. And so Ben, let's dive right into let you and I got a chance to meet earlier, but for our audience, a lot of corporate executives, CEOs, et cetera. You spent 20 years in banking and financial services, and in a lot of leadership opportunities you've had there before pivoting to AI consulting. And AI is obviously the rage across the world right now. But I know you and I share the passion for people in that AI. As much as it's a technology revolution, there's people at the center of it. So what was the moment where you realized that AI was going to fundamentally change how organizations operate and made you really decide to go all in on serving people through this transformation?
So it's actually been going on for a few years now, where the availability of AI has been growing and growing, and the use of it has been growing. Shadow AI, of course, as many employees are using. And why? Because they can see that their productivity is going up and up and up. Their output is going up. And so, as I work on the customer side in particular, for my entire career, working with the people, how do we actually use the technology that's now available to benefit the end user and benefit the employees themselves? And so a lot of decisions were being made that I could see very, very clearly in various organizations that I worked with, to invest primarily in the IT side because it could do this now. And so typically from an IT perspective, that was always the first mover. Let's go to IT and let's make sure we invest. And as you talk to many organizations, they're absolutely willing to invest, but they have put their money aside on the IT side of the budget, and not on the people side of the budget as needed, or the operations. And so this for me was really an eye opener, that yes, AI is here. It's here to stay. When I entered the workforce, email was already being used. The internet was already being used regularly. And frankly, we haven't seen any major shifts in our operations since that time. We've made it better and better as time goes on, but it's still functionally the same way it was being done, 20, 30 years ago. And so with AI, though, you can see very clearly that it will and should shift operations very significantly. And of course, as you and I talk about, what does that mean for the people component of it? Because I don't want folks to be concerned about, well, what's next for me? What am I going to be doing? I used to sell horses for transportation, but now it's all cars. What do I do? What do I do? That was in the past. And so now it's the same sort of anxiety that we see out there. And it's about, okay, how do we help the people?
Yeah, so let's lean into that a little bit more. I know you have some experience in doing this fractional chief AI officer role, right? Which there's a lot of companies that don't have that role in there at all, especially mid-market companies. But a lot of enterprises don't have it either. How would you say leadership, whether it's fractional CAI, chief AI officer, or another role, how can leadership understand transparently what's happening with their workforce? As you say, like, this technology is coming in, it's a major shift to put people at the center and really empower the people with this technology. Like, what do leaders need to see, or how do they see that to really get into that?
It's a great question. What we're seeing, as you alluded to, is the shadow AI and the availability that's there for employees to use to get the information that they're looking for, to speed up their output, and make life that much easier. It doesn't replace them by any means, but it does make them superhumans. And so as that's going on, if the folks at the top are not actively working towards this in a governance fashion, how can it be used, what can be shared and not shared, the employees are going to go in that direction anyway. And we know they already are. It's amazing to see that. And instead of being negative about it, we can actually be very, very positive, because all the employees are doing really is trying to increase their output. What they're trying to do is move things further along at a faster rate. Who wouldn't want that? And so from the executive perspective, as we sit around the table, again, it's that understanding that this is not just an IT structure. IT cannot structure the operations of the organization. They cannot structure training that goes on for the operations within the organization, and so on and so forth. It goes on and on and on. The technology is there, yes, but then how it gets used, what gets used, when it gets used, all of that needs to be defined well. So in the fractional space, first of all, why do I do that? Well, I enjoy working with many organizations. As sitting at the executive table in the financial services, we were accountable for the final product in many, many countries. And so you're defining then how is banking looking, what direction are we going in, and how does that relate to our goals through risk, for example, treasury, our operations, customer experience, and so on and so forth, right? And so as to, regardless of what you do when you're at that table, you have to answer many questions and look at it holistically. As a chief AI officer, again, the importance and value of having that full perspective around it. Then what I need to do is obviously keep myself up to date, not only on what the organization is doing, but what AI is even out there. Should I be concerned about, this new model that just came out? Should I be concerned instead about this? What's happening here? And, frankly, Matt, we can only do that with so many organizations within one enterprise, because it's staying very, very much up to date on what applies to them, because otherwise they're just hearing a lot of noise that's out there. So that's where I, really fell in love with it. And what I wanted to do was be at that table still, looking at it from all of those perspectives, because now, like I said, in that fractional role, I sit at the table and listen to, okay, what direction are we going in? What is it that we need to do to remain competitive? And I can offer that insight that says, well, according to artificial intelligence that we're seeing, here's a lot more information than they ever had before. Or they may just say, okay, Ben, this is the direction that we want to go in, no question. But how does AI fit in? What can we do? And that's also where we need to make sure that we have the AI culture now fully embedded within the organization itself. Those are some items that I speak to. And for many, many organizations, it answers the questions and concerns that they have, because otherwise, where do you get that kind of talent within the organization? Not an easy answer.
Yeah, it's not an easy answer, and it's moving really fast. Even for you and I, who are right at the bleeding edge of it every day, there's just so much moving. It's challenging for us and our teams to stay on top of it. We certainly, are several steps ahead of our clients. So to be able to bring that knowledge as quickly and transparently to the clients real time or near real time is a challenge, right? It's a challenge for everybody out there.
Well, and we have to stay on top of it, right? Like every day there's something new. And I know the same for you. We have to find what speaks quickly to us so that we're aware of it. But again, in that fractional role, it's putting the pieces together to the organizations that I'm supporting. How does it fit to you? How does it fit to this and what's being done? Because like I said, there's so much noise that can be out there. And you'll hear about, okay, now what about this new model that it just came out? What's going to do? And that's because maybe they heard the news on the train on the way into the office. But to be able to say, you know what, yes, absolutely, this can apply. Here's what we need to be considerate we need to consider and be careful with. Or, you know what, not even going to apply to you. Don't worry about it. When there's something that does come up, you're going to hear it first from me.
So let's talk about, because the news is out there, the media is out there. There's always different stories, right? And it's very, very challenging to know what's right or what's a myth, what's reality, right, out there. What are some of the what are like one or two of the biggest misconceptions that you see that leaders often are struggling with because they misheard something, as you said, on the way to work, or maybe through the grapevine of the corporate world, et cetera? Like what are a couple of the misconceptions that you think are out there with AI right now?
The first one that comes to my mind, Matt, is as we talked about the shadow AI piece as being a negative. And from a governance perspective, it very much can be. If they're using the wrong models, if information is being shared that shouldn't be shared, or where, absolutely, that needs to be well defined. So if I don't have governance within my organization, I should be concerned about shadow AI. But as we talked about, the other side of it is, why are the employees doing it? It's because they actually want a better end product. They want a better result. And that should speak for the organization itself. Like, who wouldn't want that? That's exactly what we want. So I would say that's one misconception, is that shadow AI is only a negative and we need to be strong about how to, shut it down. I would say, first of all, you will not be able to shut it down. It's very much out there and will continue to be out there. It'll be a job unto itself to continue shutting everything down. You need governance that goes with it. And so how do we build that governance to make sure that it's proper? The other piece I would say, though, that misconception is really, and this is kind of the very beginnings of AI, as we move from generative AI into agentic AI, and then how that functions. If I'm using a generative AI model to give me very specific up-to-date information, just for example, checking the weather for today in this particular city, that's not generative AI. You do not want that to be generative AI. If it's using the internet to grab that information, fine, great. But again, to understand what is generative AI and how does it produce what I'm looking for. So what areas might I want that to fit within my organization versus what do I need exact specific information now? So working with many accounting teams, generative AI is not really going to get you very far until you start to project forward. But if you're actually looking for today's data, generative AI isn't going to do that. Versus other models that you could use. So again, it's that shift that we're now Gen AI. It may sound good, but how is that actually impacting your organization? Because at the end of the day, if you're using generative AI that hasn't been trained properly, it doesn't capture the right information or the right data, and that has not been wrangled correctly, then it will produce an end result that folks will consider to be hallucinating, right? It's not even proper. Look, it's garbage, so let's get rid of it. Well, it's not really garbage. It's doing exactly how it's been trained to do it. So was it garbage in? Because then you will get garbage out. And so I think that's another misconception out there, is what is AI going to do? And then having to help organizations understand that it needs to fit into the operation. It is not the operation unto itself. It needs to fit in. It's a tool that goes with it that makes things get faster, more efficient within the organization.
Yeah, very well said. It does need to fit in. And you and I share the knowledge and understanding and truth that the AI transformation is really a people transformation within organizations, right? Yeah. And it's a balancing act, which I know you have a lot of experience in. You're balancing what do leaders want for the AI transformation? How are they going to measure that success? Maybe it's ROI, maybe it's something else. So I have a two-part question for you. What is it that you found that you think leaders ultimately want? And then once they know they can get that from an AI transformation, they lean into it more. And then how do you measure that impact throughout the organization as you start to get engaged with a client?
Well, you know what, that's very interesting. That's a great question, Matt. And really, it's kind of how we start so many of our conversations with organizations. It's what's taking your time today. what's really exhausting you and is not necessarily related to what you're trying to be your output. And so, very often we hear, well, I really want to do more golfing, or I need more vacation time. I'm here, 17 hours a day. And it's like, okay, well, that ROI may not actually be achievable. But, being able to share with them, okay, this is where we can go with it. What I find with many organizations that, yes, they want the efficiencies. They want to be able to stay current, stay competitive across their industry, while they know that so many others were already using AI. They're already going in that direction. And we know that more than 75% of businesses are already going in that direction. Whether or not they're using it correctly is a different story, but they're absolutely on the way. And so the ROI that they're looking for is really that efficiencies. And then what we need to be very careful with, though, is that people side of it. And I would say that the twofold is one, if our ROI is expected to do this, whatever that X is, don't peel off the people first. Your ROI will be a reality once it's actually implemented and seeing it working, right? And so if you peel off the people first, but you don't achieve what you're actually looking for or need to get, you actually put your organization at significant risk. And so start small and be able to see how it works. How is this helping one particular organization or one particular department within an organization? And that's the other side of the people piece, because really, as we start small, we can define who is going to be using it. We can look at who are my champions within the organization, who can then be the spokespersons that I need for my organization, because yes, I'm going to go in this direction. I absolutely need this, but who can really get that sound out there and be willing to work with the various parties that are needed in order to make it work properly in that department. Start there. And again, start small, so that you have people that are willing to try it and get it going and keep moving in that direction. And then after you see the results, okay, now what we see is, how can I then apply this to the various departments that I have? And then you start to see it expand significantly. I can tell you, Matt, very, very few organizations that I see are at that expanded point yet. They're still at this small scale, trying to make it work. And it's not necessarily working yet. And again, garbage in is garbage out. That needs to be trained correctly. And this is what you and I do. We get right down into the weeds with the data and make sure that it's getting the right output. But that has to happen first. And then they see the ROI in that small space. And then, okay, how can I apply it here? Once you have that, okay, more funds go into that annual budgeting so that we can actually put more into artificial intelligence as a tool within my operations. The piece about that, though, and having that championship team and those the folks that are going to be sharing this information right across the organization, the key for them is that they need to have that new culture, because AI as a culture is not just using a new tool, it's thinking in a different way. Now that I have a tool that can make it do this and this, how can I, if whatever I need to do, how can I start to think now about using that as a piece in the puzzle that is going to make the workflow work even better? So, I mean, you and I do this on a regular basis as we work with organizations, but it's okay, let me look at your workflows. Let's see how it is. But then it's not about, okay, well, let's put AI here, and the workflow basically stays the same. No, it's not going to work. We basically need to throw out the box. We often say, is think outside the box. No, throw it out. Just gone. And that way, you just need to think new. And that's a culture shift, isn't it, within the organization, that everybody needs to be willing to think new. If I'm going to do exactly the same way I've been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years, and that's not going to change because I was one who invented it way back when, we often struggle with that, to be able to say, you know what, here's another way of looking at it and thinking about it. As that comes, this so well, the conversation often goes into, why are we even doing this? Why do we have this as part of our workflow? Where did this come from? Why did it get designed like that? Yep, absolutely. Every organization's the same. And so it's a matter of question, do we need to keep it? What do we do with it? And those questions are so very, very valuable. And I would say that is really the new AI culture that needs to be ingrained into the operation, so that now as you consider all of it, it's not just, oh, here's an AI tool, plug it in. No, it's thinking differently.
Yeah, it's a very, you explained it very well, Ben. And I want to double click into it a little bit more as well, because, you and I have a lot of shared experiences with clients. And so if you take that, so if you're going to look at what an existing process is, and then potentially, throw out the box and start over again. So you have a whole bunch of processes, like this particular department or business unit, they're responsible for delivering these outcomes, right? So again, two-part question, do you think that the managers or leaders of these business units are becoming, as we help them shift the mindset, they're becoming more outcome focused instead of more process focused? And then when the processes do change, who is authorizing those changes? Do you find that it's like the senior leadership, mid-management, the people doing the work? Does that vary by company? So that's sort of the two parts. Is it more outcome focused, and who is approving these changes?
I would say definitely the outcome needs to be monitored more carefully. As we have now a new tool in our operation, and perhaps our operations and the workflows have been adjusted. So as we build the culture that now redesigns the process itself, what we need to make sure of is that the output is exactly what we're looking for. And we need that measurement right there. We have to build with human in the loop, human on the loop, however you want to express it, so that they are now the ones that are no longer just producing, but they're overseeing. It's that oversight piece that absolutely needs to happen. Built many agents for organizations that perform a function. And my question always is, as we go through this and define the workflow, where is the human in the loop? Is it just at the end, or is it middle? Is it a few places as we go through? Why? Because I need that check to be there, to make sure that at the end, it is what I'm looking for, what I need, right? And so, yeah, there's pieces where now those employees who were doing all of this in the past, now they're suddenly experts. They're the ones who are looking at it and say, is that correct? And being actually willing to ask that question, to challenge it, to say, this isn't correct, or it doesn't look right. And that's where the human needs to be right in there. At the end product too, the AI itself needs to be trained so that when it knows let's say I produce whatever it is that I've been asked to produce. If that needs to be changed in any way, and I can tell you and give you a very specific example, I built one that crafts replies to emails. Okay, so you have to feed it with the data of the organization, et cetera, et cetera. It's a customer service operation basically through emails, and it will craft the right email, and then it sends to the human to read, the staff expert that says, is this correct? Here's the original email. This is the reply. You tell me, is this exactly? It's going to save you 90% of your time. No problem. But if the output is not what you're looking for, and it's not even addressing the issue, it needs to be changed. Well, then the AI now needs to know that it's been changed. So I typically work within, if I need anything above a 25% change in that output, then that needs to retrain the AI. Mm-hmm. So now that becomes my new base model for how it can reply to that type of question. So that AI needs to get better as time goes, and the output is exactly what I was looking for. And maybe eventually you can get it so that it just sends it out and no one needs to look at it. Frankly, we're not there yet. And I don't know that we want to be there. But having that human in the loop is absolutely critical.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Again, very well described, because I know it's done a little bit differently in all different places, Ben. So I appreciate that explanation. Let's talk about, as we're beginning to wrap up, a couple more questions for you. What's your one piece of advice for senior leaders out there, especially CEOs? You're leading the organization. It's ultimately up to you to decide how much you're investing in your people, in your technology, et cetera. What's your one piece of advice for the business leaders out there who feel like maybe they already missed the boat, or maybe they're already way too far behind? Like what would you say to them?
Yeah, you know what? That's a very good concern, and we see it a lot right across all organizations. Anyone who's running it is, where do I need to be? Where am I in comparison to my competition? And it's very valid. It's a very valid question. I would say you're never too late to get started, but it's important to get started and to be well educated and understand how this will impact not just your organization, but your competition also, and what are they doing as well, so that you can basically get on the bus. That's absolutely critical, because back when, and I've only heard this, this was not my reality back when, that folks didn't want to adopt the internet in their organization. No, it'll go away. It's just a fad. It'll go away. And then it was email. I don't want to adopt email. No, it'll go away. Well, that's the same that we're seeing with AI, where a lot of those the thoughts around it, well, yes, it's here now, but it's not going to change what I do, and it's going to go away. No, it's not. And so, okay, how do I then get started? And as we look at this, what I often see across so many organizations is they put it into the hands of IT. I've said this many times, even just now. It just goes into the hands of IT to say, you run it for me. And IT can't, because it speaks to every single piece of the organization and how it functions. And so I would suggest then flatten the organization to an extent, or have the team that can interact right across as needed. In my role in the executive world with financial services, one of my greatest acts was to be able to build relationships with so many different departments that I'm not accountable for, but I know when they need me or I need them, there's a good relationship there. And so it's understanding all of that within the organization and building those relationships and making sure they gel and that they're solid. Absolutely critical, because that's exactly what AI is doing. We are talking about all of our operations and how they speak to it, the risks that can exist right across. What is the actual output? How does that impact? What is the ROI that we're looking for? That's where, having that understanding that this is not just one department. I can't assign it to IT. I can't just assign it to HR. I have to look at it holistically and set up a whole new team that is going to branch right across all of it. That's where I would say, please get started. Absolutely. That's what we do. We're here to help always. But to make sure that you have representation of those who are your champions and are willing to work for that common goal that the organization has.
Yeah, I love that. So important. It's everybody. And to summarize it in my own words, the only thing you can really do wrong is not taking action. Like, you want to lean into it, collaborate across your leadership team. This affects every individual in the organization. So put together your plan, your strategy, etc. And but start moving.
Yeah. And you know what I said, Matt, was that basically it's never too late to get there. And I need to correct myself, because the reality is 2026, honestly, now is the time to get started. There's no question, because by 2028, if you have not already implemented AI, you will no longer be in business.
Yeah.
Sadly, that will not be the time to come to the table. And if you do at that stage, it will be extremely expensive to try to catch up to your competition. That doesn't work that way. So yeah, I think the time is coming if you start now.
Fantastic. I agree, Ben. Ben, this has been a great conversation. Really enjoyed all the insights, everything that you've shared. How can people reach out to you if they want to learn more about you, your company, all the great things that you're doing out there to serve?
Absolutely. peoplefocuspro.com. That's where we're at. Please reach out. Happy to assist in whatever way we can. And of course, also connect with us through Facebook, same People Focus Pro, People Focus Enterprise AI as well. And we're out there willing to help wherever we can.
Fantastic, Ben. Thank you so much again for being here and for all the insights that you shared. peoplefocuspro.com will make sure that people, if they're driving in their cars, they can hear it. But when they come back and look at it online, we'll have that included in the show notes as well to make it easy for people to reach out. I know you're on LinkedIn as well, because we're all on LinkedIn getting it done.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks again, Ben. And for those of you out there listening, if you got value from this conversation, like and subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, share it around the world so we can expose more of this goodness. And if you're ready to move your organization or anyone else who's leading an organization from AI curious to AI powered with really documenting the ROI along the way. Visit us at leadingaiagility.com. And until next time, remember, people plus AI equals superhuman. I'm Matt Zembruski. Go make it happen.
Thank you.